All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to our discussion of the first Republican debate. We got some people already here with us. Hello, Jose. Glad that you could make it and join us. Hey, Steel Waters and Nelly03. Glad that you are here. We are about to have a time. We have a lot to talk about, gentlemen. So we got the one and the only Too Raw, Too Real, as well as the one and the only Mentally Divine. Glad to see you both. Kenny, it seems as though you have on some adornments, some headwear.
Look,
There.
I am wearing red
Looks
for
like
this
you
ghetto
are
ass debate.
dressing exactly like the fear that Tim Scott has for Black America.
Don't be talking about my do-rag. I'm not about to go rob a 7-Eleven.
I'm just telling you, based upon Tim Scott's discussion tonight and his constant repetition of how he was able to overcome poverty, it looks as though you would be his greatest nightmare. America has a problem.
Look, he got plenty of problems in it with his polling numbers. He already understands that he's just auditioning for VP. I don't understand what his purpose is. I don't understand half the purpose of the panel that was literally on the debate tonight.
What do you mean? Okay, so I think that's a great place for us to just jump right in. I have some really good prepared clips. I went in, pulled some stuff on Twitter as well. And also, guys, for those of you who are watching, we definitely want you to shoot questions in the chat, and then we're going to go back and answer some of those, and it will help guide our discussion. But for both of you guys, what do you think is the purpose of tonight's debate? Did anybody tonight hit a home run? Question number one, did we have any home runs hit?
No, Nikki Haley hit her home run, but you go ahead.
No, I don't think that anyone necessarily hit a home run. I do think, though, that some people got some base hits. And I think that Vivek Ramaswamy will definitely see a surge after this debate. I do think that Nikki Haley had a good night. I think she has some good punches in there. Chris Christie was reeling, and I did not expect Chris Christie to reel. We all know Chris Christie is a debater. And we knew that he has the punches. We know that he was going to bring it to Trump. But Vivek really knocked his ass down. So I think it was a bad night for Christie. I think it was, I still don't even know who Doug Burgum is. And
Ryan, he's the governor of North Carolina.
I know who he is functionally.
No, hell he ain't.
I know who he is functionally. What I'm saying is, look. Here's what I'm saying essentially. Nobody on this stage tonight is going to be the nominee for president for the Republican Party. Nobody. Everybody tonight was auditioning for the VP spot in case that Donald Trump becomes the nominee, which he will eventually become the nominee if he's not sentenced and he's not disqualified from running. Let's just be clear about that. So everybody was trying to be on the VP ticket. And I think Vivek really made some great headway in doing that tonight.
I think a lot of people are literally auditioning either to be VP or it might Pence's case, because he kind of said the quiet part out loud. He said that Donald Trump is going to get convicted. So my whole thing is that means this motherfucker done sang like a canary, y'all. That means what we believe might be true. We might get our first president. I mean, Donald Trump has been the first to do a lot of things. 2 times indicted. No. 2 times impeached. And then how many indictment cases? 4?
Yeah, there is 4 formal indictments that will be made on tomorrow. It'll make 4. What I want to say is that 96 charges once everything is levied on tomorrow. So yeah, I think so. You think that? So okay, Kenny, that's a pretty bold statement. I'm not saying I disagree. I think that you bring up a really good point that Pence's conviction in this debate seems to indicate that Donald Trump is definitely going to possibly go down. If that's stated, which of these individuals would have the best chance of being the Republican nominee?
So in this case right now, I think that's what they're trying to prosecute the case, but I don't see anybody prosecuting that case in this moment. As far as winners go, I mean, Vic is trying to be chosen as VP, but he understands that they jumped his ass on the debate stage. They were treating him like a true model minority. I hope he understands his place in all of this. But as far as the winners go, I mean, Nikki Haley had a lot of good shots out there, but unfortunately, based off of the way that she was speaking, she pretty much gave Biden all the ammunition he needs when it comes to the 2024 election season. We have so many sound bites thanks to Nikki Haley pretty much exposing the Republican Party, saying, hey, did you know that the debt and the adding to the deficit, $8 trillion thanks to Donald Trump? So I'm loving the fact that all the things that's happening right now, we can actually use this in the upcoming election in our best interest as Democrats. But as far as prosecuting the case, this isn't going to move the needle. Nobody's going to move in the polls. It's going to be strict 40% for Donald Trump. Nobody's moving up. Nobody's moving down. I don't see this debate actually making any type of leeway for any of these candidates.
Well, the interesting part about that is that you're right. Nikki Haley actually seemed to be the moderate in the room. Like she came out the gate swinging against Republicans and Democrats. If you remember in the debate, she actually at one point says, you know, we have to put this where we are right now is not just on the Democrats, it's also on the Republicans. I wasn't expecting her to say that. I wasn't expecting any candidate to say that, to be honest with you. You know, I really do think that from a perspective of just analyzing the chronology and the logistics of the debate, some of these, it was awkward. I mean, you started off with this ginger who was singing this song about rich men in the North, or what was it? The rich men north of, I don't know, Richmond, north of
That
Richmond.
was like a dog song. We've heard of dog whistles. I think that was like some kind of dog song that we wouldn't understand.
I had no clue what the fuck they was talking about. You know, you had Brett Baer turning around like the white soccer mom in the van, trying to get the audience together because, you know, they weren't cooperating and they were booing the fuck out of Chris Christie. I mean, you know, Chris Christie was substantive. He was pressed though. I think in the very beginning, Ron DeSantis was given softball questions. I think everybody else was being pressed by the moderators. At one point, the moderators felt like they were no longer even fucking there, which was interesting. You know, he was pressed on his track record in New Jersey, and he said, well, I won 61% of the majority, and I was a conservative Republican in a blue state. And I think that's good if you hadn't run already, because you ran on that shit before and you lost. Okay, so let's talk about that. Senator Tim Scott pushed back on the trillions of dollars that he added on the deficit. You know, they were like, you were there for 10 years, you didn't do anything different. And he's like, well, you know, I championed, you know, the writing and co-authoring the bill for the tax cuts, and they weren't buying it. You know, again, so a lot of this shit was kind of weird tonight. Like there was really no wins for some of these candidates. And I'm just like, why are you up there? Chris Christie has no chance. Chris Christie has no chance in hell. I think he's really doing it in terms of being vengeful and airing his grievances against Donald Trump and just kind of being anti-Trump. And I think it's funny that Vivek really kind of cleared his ass there too. He was like, you know, you'd be more credible if you weren't also running your fucking campaign on grievance and vengeance as you're critiquing Trump to do, right? I don't know. Again, this was a VP audition tape, and they know that Trump was running. But here's the point that I want to make too. Let's not forget that tomorrow Trump is about to be booked in Fulton County, and there's going to be a mugshot coming out of Trump. So anything that was talked about tonight is going to be radically eclipsed by the media coverage that Donald Trump is about to get tomorrow, being booked and having a mugshot. Let's just also be clear about that. No one's going to be talking about this shit tomorrow. We talking about it tonight because we, you know, it's important, but nobody's going to be talking about this shit tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's the unfortunate part of this, is that Donald Trump's indictment in Georgia is going to eclipse all of this. But there was nothing said that really mattered or that was substantive anyway. Like there wasn't any, again, I think we had it in here, multiple people said, you know, there was no home run moment. And I don't think that there were, but there were some really good talking points. One thing that really stood out to me that I really enjoyed seeing was Mike Pence definitively take a stance on the side of the United States Constitution. I think that was really good. I think that he deserved the opportunity to say that. So that the American people can know who this man is and what he did. And I think that, you know, America owes him a debt of gratitude. The only thing that perhaps he's done that I think is right in his whole entire existence on the planet Earth. But again, I thought that was a high point. I think that Vivek came across as a shit show. I think that he was a disaster. I think that he was a really poor representation of younger Americans. And he absolutely he was a fish out of water. And there are younger people who can do great work, who can do great things. And because Vivek has no actual moral compass or grounding in himself as a candidate, I think that came on display tonight. And again, Asa Hutchins knows he doesn't have a chance. Scooter Braun, or whatever his name is, North Dakota, knows that he also doesn't have a chance. And I'm just baffled that they're taking up space. Nikki Haley had some great talking points. And I think that to me, Nikki Haley emerged as the winner of tonight's debate. Right there with her was Christie, and then also DeSantis. And I say DeSantis because Ron DeSantis had the most to lose tonight as the second place, the runner-up to Donald Trump. And I don't think he lost any ground. And I think if you are the front runner, even though he's not, and this, who was in the room, and you don't stumble and you don't have a massive gap and you don't fall back, you have emerged on top. I don't think anyone who's running and supporting Ron DeSantis is going to walk away from tonight's debate not supporting Ron DeSantis. I think there are some undecided Republicans out there that may be looking a little bit closer at Nikki Haley, those handful of moderates. And I think she maybe will be able to pull those in. I don't think Chris Christie can pull moderates. Not because he's not a moderate, just because people don't like Chris Christie. And I don't think that anyone else on that stage could pull those moderates either. So I think Nikki will emerge as a winner with DeSantis right behind her. And again, this was an opportunity for Vivek to shine. But when you don't really know who you are as a candidate, you don't really know what you believe in, you can't shine.
Absolutely. And shout out Chris Mowry, who we talk about all the time and makes all these great videos and represents Gen Z. I mean, he was attacking the fuck out of Vivek on Twitter, and talking about how Gen Z, like, I think one of the biggest things is him being against climate change. I mean, he talked about climate change being a hoax. He literally said that. He also talked about coal and fossil fueling and fracking, right, which is not popular with Gen Z at all. So yeah, I think you're right. I think what I was giving Vivek credit for publicly on social media, and I will give credit for it now, is that he is a great speaker. He is a great speaker, but that does not a great candidate make. And I think that we saw that tonight. I mean, we saw, you look at the independents and you look at those different data points. And when he was talking about specific things, literally he lost women, he lost independents, and that's what you need. I think he gave enough meat for his base, or enough red meat for his base for the Republicans. I don't think that he had enough for independents. But again, I don't think that he was taking this seriously to win for president or the nominee. I think he was trying to get in there with Donald Trump. And someone tried to check me on social media saying, well, no, he's too sassy. He has too much personality to be working with Trump. But here's my thing. Trump is going to see himself in that robust personality and say, I want that on my team, right? Like, he's not going to look at Mike Pence. Although I will say Mike Pence, though, did come out swinging tonight. He had some great sound bites. He had some good clips. You had Vivek saying, no, I don't understand. And he was like, well, I'll go slower this time. Right. That was a side swipe. You have Mike Pence, or you have Governor Christie saying, Vivek, you sound like ChatGPT. Right. Like, there was a lot of hits coming that way. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, again, Mike Pence had a good night tonight. I don't know, what did y'all think about Mike Pence? Because he was low energy as fuck last time, but this time around he can shoo the fly away.
Morally standing, I think he did a good job as far as the morals and sticking with the Constitution. But as far as on the Republican side, he didn't move the needle for himself. They don't like him. Did you forget that they wanted to hang him at the Capitol? So no. As far as Vivek goes, he's got his head so far up Trump's ass trying to be this VP. And it's the mere fact that he literally came out of his mouth and said Donald Trump was the best president in U.S. history. So anybody arguing with you saying that, no, he is running to actually become, no, he's not.
Yeah.
So
well, let me ask you this. What did y'all think about the moment where they said, raise your hand if Donald Trump is convicted of this, if he's convicted, will you still support him for the nominee, if he's the nominee? And Ron DeSantis looked around before he raised his hand. He saw Vivek raise his hand. He saw one other person on that side raise his hand, and then he raised his hand, and then a couple of other people. The only two people who did not raise their hand was Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson. What did y'all think about that moment? Because clearly that shit was humiliating. To me, that was humiliating.
Well, nobody knows where they want to stand. What they're doing is they're trying to see where voters are. They're trying to see how much control does Donald Trump really have over the Republican Party. And obviously, even with him literally not four times indicted, even though he's not president anymore, he lost the election. He has no political authority. He can't do anything. It shows they want to see exactly where the rest of the Republican Party is. So they're not sure. They're not sure of anything. So right now, they're just trying to just go with the wind. They are literally grifting to try to figure out what they can do, what opportunity they can take in order to somehow gain a little bit more political power. As far as Vivek goes, he's blatantly said that he would pardon the president, ex-president.
Mm-hmm.
Zach?
Yeah, I was about to say Zach.
I'm looking at the comments, and so happy to see so many friends here. Micah, a phenomenal journalist, has joined. So glad that you're here, Candy. I love you. Glad that you're making, of course, Kevin, again, another phenomenal journalist with Bi Latin Men, not B-I, but B-Y. And again, some great work. So if you don't follow Micah, you don't follow Kevin, you need to do so because they have some great content out there. I think we have some viewers here who don't follow this channel. Follow the channel. I am busting my ass to spend a whole lot of damn money trying to invest in this channel with good content so I can get to the 1,000 followers and finally get monetized one day. So with all that being said, guys, I think you bring up some really good points. I agree. I don't think Vivek is auditioning to be vice president. I don't think that Vivek would be a good fit for Donald Trump. And I don't think Donald Trump would even like him because he is a little bit too sassy, I think, as Kevin said. And I don't think he's going for that. I do think that he's going for like a career as a conservative commentator. And he's all about the money. And he's all about the money. And he's trying to build up his brand. And that's
the right Andrew Yang.
Right. Yeah, he is exactly. He is the Republican Andrew Yang 100% all day, every day. That's who he is. That's what he I think brings to the table. So I don't think that he's someone that we need to really. I don't think he's a serious contender. I don't know if there's any. What's disappointing to me is that the Republicans don't have a serious contender to replace Donald Trump. If Donald Trump is not able to run, I mean, who do they have? And what will that mean in 2024? Like, what will that mean?
I honestly, I think if Donald Trump is out of the running, I think his share of what he's getting, the 62% of what, I think that's his number right now. It's his 62%. I think that share will then be evenly distributed amongst the other remaining candidates. I think those numbers obviously raise up because, I mean, tonight was clearly a stage of losers. I mean, you think about it, you have everybody, the people who were in the middle. Ron DeSantis was in the middle. That's how people are arranged on stage. He had 10. What he has 10. He's polling at 10%. So you have these people who are polling at 10%. And if Trump was on there, he told Jeb Bush's ass that he was moving off the stage. He'll be gone later. So there was a stage of losers tonight. Again, no one really cared about these people. You have Trump is the front runner, but they'd move it. I think the front runner then at that point would be Ron DeSantis. I also do think though that is a mistake. I think it's a mistake. Again, I think Ron DeSantis is great for the base, but Ron DeSantis is not good for a national election. And I think if Republicans are truly as conniving and smart and machinacious as we think that they are, and we say that they are, and that they think that they are, they wouldn't do that. But I think that they would. That's my prediction. I think
a lot came out from this audience. I was thinking through a lot. I realized hands down, there was no one on that stage who was going to impress me. And there was no one on that stage who was going to say anything I would probably agree with. And that didn't happen. But I did, take note of how the audience was responding to questions. And then I'm trying to reconcile it. What I mean is this. There were things that I thought the audience would boo that they didn't necessarily boo. There were moments of applause around accountability for Donald Trump, moments of applause around the Constitution being upheld, moments of applause around democracy. There was some booing of some things. But for the most part, a lot of the people in that audience seemed to be open to the idea of someone being president that's Republican besides Donald Trump. But then I had to think to myself, this is Wisconsin. It's a battleground state. And those Republicans there are more moderate than the Republicans that you would have in Georgia, than what you have in Mississippi, than what you have in Texas, and what you have in Florida. So I don't know if this was a good sign that the Republican Party is slowly waking up from the brainwashing of Trumpism, or if this was just a bad sample.
I have no hope for them. I mean, when Chris Christie talked about accountability at first, they just booed him. So I don't necessarily know about that. As far as the crowd and what the sample, I honestly feel that Trump is still going to be the nominee regardless. I feel like with the Republicans, they're lost. This grand old party is gone. There is no hope for trying. It's literally partisanship at this point.
I mean, okay, so wait, Kenny, you're saying that you have no hope in terms of if Trump is not the front runner and something happens where he can no longer run for president. What you're saying is that there is no hope for any of these candidates to win. That's what you're saying.
There is no hope for these candidates to win. They're so entrenched with Trump. Trump literally has the Republican Party in a chokehold. It is a cult.
I mean,
it just is what it is.
I agree with you. I mean, I think between Ron DeSantis making up stories about a woman named Tracy in Texas or a woman named Donna
Penny,
right? Penny or Nickel or whatever her fucking name was. You have Mike Pence, who again they don't really like him because they say that they're for the Constitution, but they're not really for the Constitution. And he upheld the Constitution, and they don't like that. No one is popular up there. And no one really has winning policies. You know what I'm saying? The Republicans have one playbook, and it's do and claim that the other side is doing what you do, right? Like they are people who run based on fear. They run based on racism. They run based on dog whistles and getting red meat for the base. And then they say that that's what Democrats do, that they run on fear, that they have no policy, that they're bringing up money in the deficit and spend like. I mean, you have DeSantis saying that he's going to abolish the Department of Education. These are not serious positions. Like, let's be real. These are not serious positions. These are not things that can actually be accomplished. These are not things that the same smoke that we have for Bernie Sanders when we say that he can't actually accomplish things because you have to be in a place where you can work across the aisle and you can actually get things done and do compromise and understand that negotiation. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do that. Not with any of their policies. Again, this was just red meat for the base tonight. I don't see.
I mean, Nikki Haley argued that case. She pretty much laid it out plain and simple, trying to reach out to moderates on the Democratic side, saying, hey, we shouldn't have a federal abortion ban. She tried her best to try to reach out to, I guess, Democrats that are on the field that are tired of Biden and tired of Republicans. She was trying to play that off.
But let me say my hot take about Nikki Haley. This is my hot take. I don't think any Republican is ready to
vote for a woman.
For a woman.
And a woman of color at that.
A woman of color, person of color. Tim Scott is a political fucking pawn. Okay. The way that Fox News treats black people is fucking ridiculous. They had Colonel West on earlier because I was fucking watching. I put on Fox News earlier to be ready for the debate. They had Colonel West on Fox News, and you had his fucking coon ass up there talking about some sister, calling Laura Ingraham sister. First of all, Laura Ingraham of all motherfucking people. But then second of all, being asked specific questions. They asked him, they don't want him to be a fucking candidate. Talking about do you know that if you actually run, the Democrats can lose? How do you feel about that?
He loves it.
Oh, of course he loves that. But that's what they're trying to put on. They want to split the fucking party. And people who are within the sound of my voice, if y'all can understand this, because we talk about this all the time, every fucking election cycle, voting for third party is the stupidest thing you can fucking do. Yes, you have the right to do it because your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice and you can vote for whoever the fuck you want to do. But at the end of the day, if your mentality is progress and you want to call yourself a progressive, voting for a third party gets you nowhere near the progress that you're actually claiming that you want to achieve. Let's put that out there. Let's put that out there. For the people who don't know,
or too
We got the
slow.
good comments going about Tim. We are going to do a discussion right now about Tim Scott because it is important, I think, to talk about Tim Scott. Tim Scott was probably the biggest loser of tonight's debate, in my opinion. Tim Scott went into this debate with a lot of momentum in Iowa. He's been constantly climbing up the Iowa polls. And again, as Slater says right here, he was damn near invisible. And again, his closing statement is exactly as what Kevin said, is that it was pretty much, my mother, single mom, worked a lot of hours to help me overcome poverty. I made it. And if you're born a man, stay a man. Like that was this man's closing argument. He brought no substance to any answer that he gave. To me, he was the biggest disappointment of all the candidates on that stage, even more disappointing than Scooter Braun.
I mean, Tim
What's
Scott.
going on?
The governor of North Dakota, but his name is like
talking about Doug. No, his name is Doug Burgum.
You can call him Doug, but I know another Doug. I prefer to call him Scooter Braun.
Okay.
Child, he looked like George Washington without the white wig, honestly. But
You do.
he really do look like oatmeal, like about oatmeal and shit like that. But anyways, as far as Tim Scott goes, look, his ass pulled up with no plan. He was long-winded. He really kept running over time. I'm like, goddamn, could you get to the damn point? I mean, it was just a drag. He was boring. He wasn't charismatic. I kept looking at all the gaps in his teeth. There was just so many distractions going on all at once. I'm like, oh God, get him off the stage. He had no neck. I said, oh, there was so much going on with Tim Scott, but we all know that he's not going to be anything. He is just there just to check a box and say, hey, we have minorities on our side too. We have black people. Black Republicans exist. Yeah. Child, that's his.
Junius brings up a really good question about you think they're going to support an unmarried black man. They're not going to support a black man. Okay, that's not.
They ain't going to support a black man, period.
Having Tim Scott on the stage makes everyone feel better. It makes everyone say, see, I'm not racist because look, Tim Scott is right here on the stage. And not only is he black, he's in poverty. Wow, we love Tim Scott. But I do think it's very odd, our unmarried leaders from South Carolina. And that's all I'm going to say. I just think it's something odd going on in the Palmetto State. Something odd is going on in the Palmetto State. And Zedric, I'm glad that you're here. You look lovely in your little profile picture, a cute little koala. A lot of people had the ability to sync Ron, but for some reason they didn't. I also kind of think to a certain extent that they were content to let Ron be robotic and just read off the cards in his head and just say what he was saying, because that's exactly how he sounded every time he opened his mouth. I'm baffled that this man is making as much headway as he is, because we all can tell there is something amiss.
I mean, he's slipping in the polls thanks to, our VP Battle Vice President, as she went to Florida and dogged his ass out about that whole slavery thing when it comes to their curricula. But as far as Ron DeSantis goes, what I noticed is, honestly, I don't know why y'all are giving him so much. He disappeared to me. I was not paying attention to Ron DeSantis. For the most part, like you said, he did sound very robotic, but I think the thing that helped Ron DeSantis the most is the mere fact that there were so many people on this debate stage. He really didn't have that many talking points. He really didn't have that chance. But one thing that really frustrated me most, and I want to get into, hopefully we can get into the fact checking of all the lies that they told.
Yeah.
But the thing that frustrated me most is when they were talking about the homeless crisis, why the hell did they pivot right into funding the police? How the hell is more police officers on the street supposed to deal with homeless? How does that fix the homeless crisis? They don't talk about any investment. They don't talk about any reentry programs. They don't talk about anything. There's no policy. They just go into, let's fund the police. Oh, police. And this is where Vivek pissed me the fuck off. He pretty much said, let's give police the ability to not have to look over their shoulder and be concerned about being prosecuted, pretty much giving them the right to kill and harass and racially profile African Americans and people in minorities. That pissed me the hell off. They're saying, oh, let's just continue to pour more and more money into cops, and you should feel some type of way, Mr. Zach, with Cop City all up in Atlanta.
But here's the thing, Kenny. I actually didn't let there was nothing they said that affected me at all, because I walked into this knowing that there is these are Republicans. It's a Republican debate. There's no issue they're going to bring to the table that I am going to ideologically agree with. So I was looking at this from a very probably different standpoint, because if they would say stuff, I would roll my eyes and I would exhale it out, because it's just pointless, and because that's their platform, it's what they believe in. But when you said that, you brought up something that was mentioned in the comments earlier, and I'm so sorry, guys, I didn't explore this. When Ron DeSantis said he was going to kill migrants stone dead. And this is something that is completely being said over and over by Ron DeSantis. I am going to treat migrants to America as though they are terrorists invading our country, and I am going to kill them stone dead.
I missed that part. Goddamn.
It's almost an exact quote this man said tonight about killing people who are in the country illegally, as he said, stone dead.
That's half his damn people in Florida. Is that why he's sending them to VP's house?
Well, let me say this, because I want to talk about this. You talk about immigrants, you talk about migrants, you talk about people crossing the border. Why they put a picture of these fucking people crossing the border? One of them got a fucking fake mustache on, looking like Pancho Villa. You know what I'm saying? With the fucking rifles. I didn't understand that moment. Okay, why was that necessary to be added on TV? You could talk about, that there's a potential crisis, which there isn't, but you can talk about that without having these pictures of these people who clearly looked like it was some fake shit. Okay, I think the other thing that we got to talk about is they also, the moderators kind of surprised me in ways, and then in other ways I was like, that's fucking right up the alley of Fox News. The moderators did press people. So for instance, you had Ron DeSantis, where the moderators said, talking about crime, and he said, well, we have a 50-year low in Florida, and Mike and Brett Baer said, not in Miami, right? And so it was like you had those little moments where the moderators were trying to fight back. So that really did. But I want to go back to your point, Kenny, because I think you're absolutely right. I didn't understand how they pivoted at all to defunding the police. Literally, they were talking about homelessness. The question was about unhoused populations, and Mike Pence said, well, I think we need to talk about defunding the police and how the Democrat. I was like, what? I had to go back in my notes and I shifted it. I was like, maybe I misheard, and maybe they were talking about crime and not homeless populations. But no, it was literally that they were talking about that. So all of it was, again, pivoting. There was nothing that had anything to do with any specific policy. But yeah, no, that was a losing argument. The migrants and the immigrants, crossing the border is also a losing thing. They tried to bring that up too about Pence's record, right? They talked about Trump and Pence, and they were like, well, there's a lot of talk on social media, or a lot of talk about how y'all really didn't finish the border, right? And so they kind of pushed back on him with that. That was a little bit interesting. I didn't think they would air that. I honestly thought that they would give him more credit. I'll be honest with you. I thought they would give him more. I thought they would give Mike Pence more credit because he was vice president. And he's not even. Oh, and by the way, I understood completely why
Ryan, what did Mike Pence do to get credit? See, this is the thing.
I know.
Right. So one thing that has pissed me off throughout the whole entire tenure of Vice President Kamala Harris's term as vice president is that she has been working more than any vice president I've ever seen in the course of my life on earth, right? Like, I don't know one thing that Al Gore did other than create the internet. Okay. Like, he was a climate change guy, but he was there because he was young, from the South, and attractive to the type of voter they wanted. I don't know what this man achieved, and it continues all the way through. President Biden was a visible vice president. He was a good cop when President Obama had to be a bad cop, but I also can't say he achieved a whole lot in the forefront. Vice President Harris has done the most of any vice president. So what can we say that Pence even contributed to at his time as vice president? And during this tenure, he never received any pressure, any heat, any questions, and he still isn't being questioned about his time of service. He was a mediocre governor who ran on a pro-life, anti-gay platform, and that's what carried him over. Hate propelled this man forward. A hate of women having the right to choose, and the hate of gay people in this country having any existence whatsoever, because they didn't make the choice that he and Tim Scott have chosen to make.
He has achieved a lot. He is responsible for nearly 500,000 people dying during COVID. He was in charge of those efforts, the same as when he was in Indiana dealing with the HIV and AIDS crisis. He's horrible when it comes to pandemics and crisis. So let's give him his flowers. This is what he did.
But you know what?
Congratulations, bitch.
Ron DeSantis. See, my thing is, why are they letting Ron DeSantis get away with murder? Literally getting away with murder. He was up there literally saying, I didn't close down Florida and I will do the same if something else like that happens. By the way, for people who don't know, COVID is again on the rise. And so that's also being reported. And so who knows what would happen, right? Maybe we have enough infrastructure to take care of what we need to do, and particularly in the federal level. You know, you had Biden, was in the Obama administration when the literal manuals were created to tackle these specific types of crises. And so I think that he has the know-how to do it. But you have over here Ron DeSantis saying he would fire Fauci. I mean, there's still, again, Ron DeSantis was taking a lot of Trump's playbook, literally said that you're fired just like that, just like fucking Trump would do on the Celebrity Apprentice, right? There was a lot of those moments where I'm just like, who are you as a candidate and how are you sticking out from Trump? I think one of the things that we know and what we always say is that Ron is actually more dangerous than Trump in a lot of ways. Ron is more dangerous because he has what Trump doesn't have, because Trump doesn't have any couth and any way to actually say things in a political, strategic way. But Ron can, But again, I think that he came off too fucking rehearsed. He came off too rehearsed.
He was robotic.
It wasn't rehearsed. It was staged.
Yeah.
He had his little talking points memorized, and he couldn't carry on without it. I hope we never see Donald Trump on any primary debate stage again. I don't want him to have a platform. I don't want him to be given the opportunity to get in front of the American people and spew his lies and be as convincing to his base as he is. But there's no way Ron DeSantis could have withstood a Donald Trump lashing the way that Donald Trump debates. There's no way